Hi, this is Eva Cartman, and you're listening to the Dream Big Podcast Show, the place to go to learn, laugh, and grow. Today we welcome memory improvement and speed reading expert Jim Kwik. This is an episode you'll never forget. It's episode 69, Big Dreamers. You ready? It's time to dream big.
Welcome to the Dream Big Podcast Show. We're inspiring you to shoot for the moon, take aim and go. We bring to you amazing guests who truly love what they do. Every day they're living their dreams, and so can you. Dream big, take action to reach your goals. Are you pumped yet? It's showtime, let's rock and roll.
Welcome to the Dream Big Podcast Show. I am your host, Eva Cartman. And today, I'd like to start by telling you about a special gift we have for all you big dreamers. We created an amazing Dream Big journal that we want to ship to you. The front of the journal has an illustration of an astronaut in outer space. What is so cool is that the journal is printed and personalized with your own face and name. Oh, and it's free. Parents, please go to dreambigpodcast.com to claim your free personalized Dream Big journal while this offer is still available. You'll see a video of my mom and I showing our journals. Go to dreambigpodcast.com to get your free journal. And of course, a quick shout out to the review of the week. This is from Jenny and reads, "This is invaluable for parents looking to encourage their kids to be ambitious and believe in themselves. Eva and Olga's conversations with their guests are always a delight to listen to." Thank you, Jenny, for that kind review. Big Dreamers, if you would like to hear me possibly read your review on the show, then please be sure to leave a review on iTunes. We are so grateful for your support. It's time for you all to enjoy our episode with Jim Kwik. We were very lucky to have him on the show, as he has an extremely busy schedule, traveling the world, speaking to companies and conferences. In this episode, he'll share his journey and struggles as a student and how he overcame those obstacles to become one of the world's leading experts in memory improvement and speed reading. Be sure to check out our show notes, dreambigpodcast.com/69. where we'll have links to everything discussed on the episode. Without further ado, here's our interview with Jim Kwik. Let's roll the tape. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Eva. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you on the podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
This
Hello to all the
topic
big dreamers.
Yes, we're so excited and we prepared really well. And Eva has so many great questions that will help our dreamers to start memorizing a lot of things quickly. This is what the interview is going to be about. And of course about Jim and his story.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your childhood and your early struggles with school?
Sure. And so thank you again, and thank you for everyone who's listening. When I'm teaching, I teach people how to read faster and improve their memory and be more focused. But I always tell people that I don't do this. I always tell people I don't do this to impress them. I do this to express to them what's really possible. Because the truth is, every single person who's listening to our conversation can do that and a lot more. And I know this because I grew up with learning challenges. When I was 5 years old, I had a bad accident. I hit my head and I had a brain injury, and it left me with learning difficulties and learning challenges. And I didn't understand things the way everybody understood things. Teachers would have to repeat themselves 4, 5, 6 times, and I still wouldn't understand. And I had a very bad memory and very hard time focusing, and it actually took me an extra 3 years to learn how to read. And I actually taught myself how to read at late at night reading comic books, something about the stories and the illustrations and good triumphing over evil and hope, and every single person can make a difference. That story it brought words to life. And so I grew up with these learning challenges all through school. elementary school and middle school, junior high and high school. And eventually, at the age of 18, I learned how to compensate and improve. And I learned how to jumpstart my brain and unleash what I call your quick brain. And I've been teaching it ever since. And it's really my mission. At the age of 9, I was labeled, one of my teachers pointed to me talking to another adult and not thinking I was paying attention, saying, "That's the boy with the broken brain." And I never want people to suffer or struggle or not have confidence the way I did. And so my mission for the past 25 years has been traveling the world and, and with our podcast, teaching people how to get the most out of their brain, how they have this beautiful mind and how we have this incredible supercomputer or superpower between our ears, but our brains don't come with an owner's manual. And, school is wonderful. I love school. My mother became a school teacher because she wanted to help me growing up because I had all these learning difficulties. The challenge I found is in school, they teach you a lot of what to learn, subjects like math and history and science and Spanish, important subjects. But there weren't a lot of classes on how to learn, like how to think and how to focus and how to remember things better and how to read faster. And so I'm really excited about those topics because I think knowing how to learn is as important as what to learn.
That's such a fascinating story, Jim. Thank you so much for sharing.
And I'm sure that at the time your accident was very difficult to deal with at the time, but it was because of the injury that you kind of forced yourself to start looking for ways to improve your abilities and set you off on this path. And for any big dreamer who feels like they're falling behind in class, Jim is proof that you should never give up.
Yeah, that's so true because, a lot of kids, they get labeled with disabilities or ADD, and maybe sometimes what's behind this, all the labels, is maybe the system doesn't work for that child. So I would like to, for our parents out there who are listening, to pay attention that, first of all, you can never ever believe all the labels because Jim is the perfect example that even if something happens in life, you can always improve. You can always do something greater than you think is possible. And we'll definitely encourage our listeners to go and check out your website, Jim, and a lot of videos that you have on YouTube. They're just impressive, just the way you memorize everything, how you, we watched that video, how, remember Eva, how Jim was remembering
all those numbers
from 25 people, and then you said them, and then you said them backwards. Like, how do you do that? What is the technique for great memory?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it should have been the 4th R back in school. They teach you 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. But what about recall or remembering, retention? And Socrates says there is no learning without memory and without remembering things. And so the challenge is a lot of times people will learn something and people will forget things within 48 hours. Up to 80% of what we learn in school or listening to shows disappears because there's this forgetting curve. And I agree with everything the two of you are saying. I believe the power of belief is very powerful because if you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. And Henry Ford said that. And I think one of the most important things to improve your memory is just to control that self-talk that we have. You know what I mean? That inner voice we have inside our minds.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes when people say, "Oh, I'm not smart enough," or "Oh, I'm not good enough," or "Oh, I'm just not, I don't have a good memory." The reason why you want to be able to monitor your self-talk is because your brain is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. Your mind is always listening to your self-talk. And I remember I was preparing to run a marathon and I was reading this book, and there was one chapter in it on the psychology of running a marathon. And it said this word for word. It said, Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is a program it will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering people's names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. And I find that sometimes, whether it's anybody, doesn't matter what age you are, I think it's important to have positive self-talk. And, sometimes we have this critic inside our mind that keeps us from achieving our big dreams. And I do believe, like you said, that the struggles that I had growing up as a child became strengths. And I think my message to anyone who's listening to this, if you have challenges, you need challenges to affect change. That your struggles could be your future superpowers. My two biggest challenges growing up were learning and public speaking. And I had trouble public speaking. Like I would do a book report in school, but if a teacher asked me to present in front of the class, I would actually lie because I was so embarrassed to go on in front of a group. I would say I didn't do it, and I would take a 0, a failing grade, and I would throw the book report in the trash on the way out. And I was so nervous because being the boy with the broken brain, I was very shy and very introverted. I didn't want to connect with a lot of people because when you feel like you're broken, sometimes you don't ask for help and you don't connect with people as much. But my challenges of learning, my challenges of public speaking, those are my biggest problems. And it's funny because that's what I do for a living now. Every day I'm public speaking about this thing called learning. And I believe everybody could do the same thing, that they could overcome their biggest challenges. And when they do, they inspire other people and give them permission to do the same. So I believe the starting point for a good memory is to monitor your beliefs and your self-talk, because all behavior is belief driven. If you believe you can do it. But if you believe you can't, it's very hard to do it.
Yeah. And one of the memory tricks I noticed you use a lot by listening to your interviews is that you use acronyms to teach concepts because they're easy to remember. One that I've heard you share about how you can remember more is by always remembering MOM. Can you share why acronyms are effective for memorizing concepts and what the MOM acronym stands for?
Absolutely. But back in school, we learned acronyms like HOMES to remember the Great Lakes, right? HOMES, and it's very visual. You can picture homes on a lake, and it reminds you of what the Great Lakes are. The H stands for Lake Huron, right? The O is Ontario and Michigan and Lake Erie and Superior. We learn it's what they call these mnemonic devices, little memory aids. And so acronyms are a very powerful way to organize information and make it more memorable. So I created one called MOM, M-O-M, and I believe it's the mother of all techniques, because if you're ever forgetting something, usually one of these 3 things is missing. And so let's say somebody who's listening, they have trouble remembering people's names, right? I think a lot of people complain about that.
Yeah.
But let's say there was something special waiting for them if they just remember the name of a stranger. Let's say it was money. Let's say it was like $1,000 if you just remember the name of the next stranger you meet, or maybe it's your favorite dessert or something like that. Then everyone will remember the name, right? And it's interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly, the power of focus and the power of intention, because most people, they don't remember something because they're not motivated. And the M in MOM stands for motivation. If you break down the word motivation, it's like, what is your motive for taking action? I believe for anyone to reach their big dreams, there's 3 parts. It goes from your head to your heart to your hands, 3 H's. And what I mean by that is people could visualize their dreams in their head, or think about their dreams in their head, or come up with affirmations in their head, goals in their head. But if they're not acting with their hands, then it doesn't come true, right? Because they're not doing anything about it. And if they're not acting with their hands or procrastinating, usually what's missing is the second H, which is your heart. And your heart, it symbolizes emotion, right? And so I always tell people, if they're not acting on the stuff that's going on in their head, then usually what's missing is find out why. Why do you want to achieve this dream? What is it going to give you? How are you going to feel once you have that? And when it comes to memory, ask yourself, why do I want to remember this? Like, you meet somebody brand new, ask yourself, why do I want to remember this person's name? Maybe it's to make a new friend. Maybe it's to do some work with them. Maybe it's to practice these techniques, we listen to on this show. And what I always tell people is reasons reap results. Reasons reap results. That if you don't have a reason to remember something, you're not going to get the results. And that's the big challenge, I think, because I think that everything has to come from that emotion, the energy of motion, what gets you to do action. So that's the M in motivation. The O in mom stands for observation. Observation. And I believe that a lot of people, it's not a retention issue. Like your memory, a lot of people blame their retention. I think it's more paying attention. I think a lot of people forget something, not because they can't retain it, it's just they're not paying attention. And so the O is observation. Like if you want to remember someone's name, just really listen. Like if you write down a word, if everyone just pictures the word listen, or if they have paper and pencil, they could write it down, listen, and you scramble the letters of the word listen, what other word does it spell? It spells this word called silent.
Oh, interesting.
And imagine that, right? If somebody wants to learn something and improve their memory and retain it, if we're just really listen and become silent, we can remember conversations. We can remember, things that we study. We can remember people's names. It's just a lot of people aren't really silent. I noticed that, when some people are talking to each other, the other person is not really listening. They're more waiting for their turn to talk. And they're talking to themselves, and they're thinking about what they're going to say and how they're going to reply, not really being present with the person. And so, I think observation, the O in mom, observation is very important, is to pay attention. And then the third M is in mom, the third letter is mechanics. And I don't mean the person that fixes, your car, but I mean mechanics like the tips, the strategies, the skills, the technique, on how to remember someone's name, on how to learn another language, on how to study, on how to read faster. I just listed last because I think motivation is very important to learn, and I also think observation is very important to learn new things also, because it's just like being a better human being. If you just are motivated, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how do you show somebody you're going to care for your relationship with them, or your friendship, or maybe you're doing some work together or studying together, if you don't just care enough to remember their name? And so I think that motivation, just caring about somebody, and observation, just being present with somebody and understanding them, is going to help you just to be a better person, and also help you with your memory also as well.
It was so true.
Yeah.
And just the way you explain things is so easy to understand and remember, right? We just listened and we learned about how to make your dreams a reality, right? You just mentioned about 3 H's, and it just stuck in my mind right there, because it's just so simple and easy. So big dreamers and little dreamers, remember about the simple mom and 3
Yeah.
H's. So if you would like to get your dreams a reality, if you would like to make new friends, and for kids out there who are listening, this is a great tip when you go play at the playground, right?
Yeah, to remember people's names, and then the next time you see that person, you can say, you remember their name, and you pay attention what they say, and then you guys could become friends.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that.
That's great advice, James. So do you have any tips or tricks if you, let's say, want to remember special memory and store it in our mind? Would that be the same, that we just kind of pay attention why we want to do it, or you have some special tips you develop?
I do. I have lots of tips that we do. I always talk about this on our show, tips on how to remember jokes or how to remember phone numbers, right? Of friends that you need to keep track of. There's a technique for everything, even a technique for remembering like dance steps or anything, muscle memory. And so what I love about this is that there's always, when you see somebody doing something extraordinary, I believe that there's always a method behind the magic.
Yeah.
That if you have a waiter, for example, at a restaurant, take your order and you realize that he or she is not writing it down and then they're memorizing it, there's a method. If somebody does really well in school, there's a method. And they might not know that they're using a method because it might be unconscious, but I find that there's always a means to creating, like a recipe. If you wanted to make a chocolate cake, there's some very specific ingredients. And I would say for your memory, there's certain ingredients also. And so, for example, if you want to remember special occasions, there are a number of things you could do. And so one of them that I really enjoy doing is, a lot of people don't do this, but I notice when I'm studying successful individuals, a lot of them keep journals, right? And they write them down. And I think it's really important. I noticed that some of the most incredible geniuses, and I don't just mean, people with high intellect and IQs. I mean somebody who succeeds at whatever they do. A large percentage of them actually keep journals and diaries. And if you think about people in history like Marie Curie, Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, they all kept journals and diaries. And, it's interesting. Maybe you think that they kept diaries because they're geniuses, or maybe because they're geniuses. Maybe because they're keeping diaries and writing things down, they became geniuses, right? So it's interesting. So I think one of the things you could do to have a better memory is each day just capture your memories in a diary or journal in the morning or in the evening. And what it does is it trains you to be more conscious of your day-to-day activities. And so I love journaling. I love writing. I also teach people. I just did a podcast episode on how to remember your dreams. And this is interesting concept because a lot of people don't realize this, but when you're learning all throughout the day, let's say it's school, you're learning all day, your brain doesn't shut off at night. Your unconscious still is processing everything and trying to solve problems from your day. And when you go to bed, a lot of us dream wonderful dreams on how to fix some of these problems or learn things better, but we forget it in the morning. But there's actually ways to remember your dreams. And I talk about 6 different ways. But so the D, I use this acronym. I use acronyms a lot, obviously, as we just discussed. But I talk about dreams, DREAMAMS, right? Dreams. And the D stands for decide. If you want to remember your dreams better, decide that you're going to remember your dreams. And when I say decision, it's like the word incision. Incision means to cut. And when you decide, decision is like to cut from any other possibility that it's going to happen. So really decide, hey, I'm going to remember my dreams tonight. But the R in dreams stands for record. And just like if you want to remember those happy moments, let's say it's a birthday or something like that, if you want to remember your dreams, you could record and keep a dream journal. And that's really important to write things down, and you're more likely to remember it. And I have this whole acronym, and the E stands for eyes, because if you keep your eyes shut, then you're more likely to remember your dreams. And the A stands for affirmations. There's certain affirmations you could say to yourself. Like, have you ever had to get up one morning a little bit earlier and you set your alarm, but you're really excited about it because you're going to go camping or go out, and you wake up like 2 minutes before your alarm goes off?
Yeah. I do that all the time.
Because that's the A in dreams. That's the affirmations. Like you're affirming and intending. Say, hey, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock or 5:30, and you ended up doing it right without the alarm clock. So affirmations are sayings that you say to yourself, saying, I'm going to remember my dreams tonight. And then the last 2, the M is manage. And what are you managing? You're managing your sleep, because there's certain good, healthy habits you could have to get better sleep. And so if you manage your sleep, you're more likely to remember your dreams. And then finally, the S in dreams stands for share. And that's where you're talking about your dreams to other people. And it's kind of nice because we're talking about dreams, on your show. And then this is,
Yeah.
So
That's
dreams
awesome.
is sharing.
Well, I would like to ask you, Jim, you mentioned a couple of times about your own podcast. Where can our audience find more about it?
And more about you.
Right.
Oh, the two of you are like superheroes to me. I could see your capes waving off your shoulders. Because I think superheroes are people, and a lot of your listeners are superheroes because they're people who want to discover and develop their superpowers. Superpowers are like modern day unique abilities and strengths, but just having a superpower doesn't make you a superhero. You have to use those powers for good. And I love the way the two of you are really sharing your superpowers with the world. For me, my superpower is teaching people how to learn and to get the most out of their incredible brain. I think that, nowadays your most valuable asset is between your ears. It's not your muscle power, it's your mind power. And so we created a show. The best way for people to reach my work is listening to our podcast, and it's called Kwik Brain, Kwik. That's my real last name. I didn't change it. It's kind of with my name like Kwik, Jim Kwik. My life was pretty much planned out. I had to be a runner back in school, and I get to teach speed reading and speed memory and speed thinking. But our podcast is KWIK Brain. And each episode is very short, 10, 15 minutes, and they're really brain tips for busy people who want to learn faster and achieve more. So there's episodes on, my favorite episode is my morning routine, like what I do, 12 things I do every morning to jumpstart my brain. And there's an episode on my top 10 favorite brain foods, and I teach you how to memorize them, like, groceries lists, so you don't have, go to the grocery store and be able to do it from memory, how to give talks and speeches without notes, because I worked with a lot of actors, how to speed read. Everything is 10 or 15 minutes long, and you could just get it on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. And then the other thing I would say is, let me know what you thought of this show. I would listen to it. And then if you talk about it on social media, it's just to ask me questions there, at Jim Kwik, JIMKWIK on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or any of your favorite. I love answering questions. So if you tag all of us, you and me, then we could say hi. And
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll be definitely listening to your show because
I will too.
I'm fascinated by everything you just said, everything you mentioned, and it is really helping us to open up superpowers because we use a lot of technology nowadays for everything, and actually it affects our memory as well. I remember before pre-cell phones, right? Like you would have to remember the phone numbers, and you would have to remember a lot of information and the addresses, and you would write it down. But now it's like, hey Siri, what's this? Hey Alexa, what's that? Right?
Yeah.
So, luckily, I remember my husband's phone number, but that's about it.
That's so funny.
And your own phone number. But what I wanted you to share before we wrap up this interview is you have another acronym that's called GPA, and some of our older big dreamers might get excited because it reminds most people of grade point average. But what is your version of GPA?
So this is great. Another technique for your goals, like you talk about in your dreams, I call it GPA. And what it means is, so it stands for goals, purpose, and action. And what I mean by that is similar to the H cubed, where you set a goal and then you identify like why you want that goal, the purpose. And then the action is really the plan that you use to get you that goal. And I think it's important because everybody wants a high GPA, whether it's grade point average or a high ability to hit a goal or to reach a dream. And I really do believe there has to be a mental component, which is the goal, and then an emotional component, which is the purpose, and then a physical component, which is the action that we're taking. And so I'm a big believer that all of us could reach our dreams, and a lot of us, and just putting a deadline onto something and scheduling it could help make it a reality. And especially for studying,
Yeah.
like we did a whole episode. It was on the front page of the LA Times for high school students. We did an episode on GPA, on how to study, and it was a very special episode just for kids and how to be the best student you could be. And
Well, I'll be
so
checking
that's
that out.
how to best study, because it's funny, in school sometimes they don't teach you how to study, and these are some really fun brain hacks, like different smells and fragrances and things that would actually help stimulate you to like peppermint. Smelling peppermint actually helps you to have better focus and improves your memory, and little things like that could help give you an edge when it comes to your GPA in school.
Interesting. Well, Jim,
Very
you're
interesting.
a fountain of knowledge. You will definitely be subscribed to all the podcasts and all the channels that we can possibly find, because that's just life. Whatever you can do, big dreamers, to improve your living, your experience here, especially using what you were born with your brain. Just use it, learn how to use it and do it. And Jim's story is very inspiring. It just shows you that we are not born with the knowledge about a lot of things, but it's in our power, and we are superheroes. Each of us is a superhero.
Yeah.
That we can go ahead and learn everything that we need to learn and improve and improve and improve. And I think the key here, Jim, and you probably will agree with me, not to compare yourself with others. As you as a child who was labeled with having a broken brain, you can probably relate to that, right? When you grow up, and a lot of times you look around and think, oh, this one is better, she's better, she's prettier, or she's smarter, or he's smarter. And then a lot of kids get discouraged. So my advice for big dreamers and little dreamers would be not to compare yourself with others, but just compare yourself with yourself. How you were a month ago, how you were a week ago. If you could read this book fast, or maybe you can improve on the reading process, and you can read it even faster, or you can recall what you read. So always compare yourself with yourself, right, Eva?
Yeah, and if you want to try something, or if you're doing something and you know you can do it better, but you decide not to, wouldn't it be better to try better? So then you can accomplish more things, make your dreams even bigger and better, and be happy. And be happy.
Out, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I do believe, and for the parents listening and the students and children, I would say that it's not. A lot of people ask this question saying, "Oh, how smart am I?" or "How smart are my children?" But it's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart. It's very small change, but don't ask how smart you are. Ask how are you smart, because all of us have a different way of expressing our intelligence. And just like what you're saying, it's not just how one person learns is different than another person's learns. It's not right or wrong. It's just what makes us different and makes us special.
Definitely.
And it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart, because all of us have different kinds of smart. Some people are very smart with facts. Other people are very smart with math. Some people are smart with people, like they're really good connecting with other people. Some people are really smart using their body, and they love playing sports or dancing or ballet. Some people are really smart drawers. Other people are very smart, computer programming. Everybody has their own superpower. And so I would say when it comes down to it, I love everyone who's listening here, because I feel like it's kindred spirits, because you have growing minds and you have a very giving heart. And I think that if knowledge is power, learning is your superpower. That if you could get good at learning, you could apply that towards anything in your life, and it'll take you very far.
Yeah, and we have one more question for this interview, even though we want to make it like a million more, but we have to wrap up. So, for our last question, you have already made many of your dreams a reality, but if you look at yourself today, what is your big dream for the future?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. For me, where I'm at right now is I have two dreams. I want next year the book will be coming out, and it's my very first book, and I'm very, very excited about it. And that's a big dream because I feel like that's my legacy. Everything in that book on how to be your best, have your best brain ever will be in that book. And so that book comes out next year. So that's a really big dream. And then my second big dream is to start a family. And so next year will be that because I want a book and I want a baby.
Yay! Well, we know that you making things happen, Jim, and we have no doubt it's gonna happen for you for sure. So thank you so much for coming to our show. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And for our big dreamers, we will include links in our show notes. And remember,
Definitely.
You can always find Jim on social media. You can find him on his website and, of course, his podcast.
Yeah.
It's called Kwik Brain, right, Jim?
It is. Thank you so much, the two of you, for being so inspiring. I really enjoy your show also. Some of the most amazing guests on your show. I really enjoyed listening to, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're one of them now, so we're very, very grateful that you came and shared with us your wisdom. So thank you, and talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Well, that's an episode that I surely will not be forgetting anytime soon. Thanks to the great tips that Jim shared with us. I really love all the acronyms he shared with us. Be sure to check out our show notes at dreambigpodcast.com/69 for links to Jim's website and everything else we discussed in the episode. When you go to the show notes, you'll see a place to sign up for our insider newsletter, where we send exclusive content, including a free audio that I made on my top 10 tips for making and keeping great friends. This audio is only available for those who subscribe, and I know this will really help you, so please be sure to have your parents join the newsletter to get it. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Eva Cartman reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional. You need to make them essential. So take massive action to turn those big dreams into reality. Live with passion the way life is meant to be. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!